Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the WatchRolling.com podcast, a veteran-owned podcast that focuses on watch collecting with the goal of helping veterans. My name is Jason, and I'm your host. If you're new to the pod, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Last week, we discussed the VA's $20 million investment in suicide prevention, and we also reviewed why the moon swatch was held back in kindergarten. One topic was super serious, but it's nice to see that the VA is putting some money back into programs to help, with veteran suicide and help prevent it. It's a serious topic. And the second topic was very fun. It was just basically how Swatch and Omega failed the Moon Swatch's parents, and basically the Moon Swatch had to repeat kindergarten. If you haven't caught them both, check them out. They're pretty informative and fun at the same time. I also this week hopped on a weekly live stream that we do every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. with Sam from the Casual Watch Talk YouTube channel. We also had Patrick from the Pocket Watch Time YouTube channel and Todd, who's pretty famous in Seiko Chrono forums. And we just discussed our 3 current watch obsessions. I mean, it was a great conversation, tons of fun. I would love to do something like that again. I learned so much from all 3 of those guys every time we hop on any kind of live stream. And like I said, every Tuesday we're doing them at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Check them out. We answer questions and just generally talk watches. Sometimes we have themes. Sometimes it's free flowing, but it's always a good time. I'll include the links to that in the show notes. This week's episode is sponsored by Mushi Watch Straps. Mushi Watch Straps is a veteran-owned business and provides well-built and fairly priced NATO straps, 2-piece straps, leather and canvas straps, as well as watch tools, accessories, and storage. I personally love their fluted NATO straps. I have quite a bit of them. I've actually probably gone a little overboard on the gray NATO fluted straps, but they're perfect. The finishing's nice, slightly polished. The material's super durable, soft, and comfortable at the same time, but rugged enough and especially strong enough to handle some of my heavier watches. My SNM 035 is pushing 100 grams, and my TSAR is a little bit over 100 grams, and the fluted NATOs handle those things great. So I invite you to check them out. Make sure you use the code VET10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. That's VET10, Victor Echo Tango 10 at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your entire order. I will also include the link to Mushi Watch Straps in the show notes, and they can be found at www.mushiwatchstraps.com. And Mushi spelled Mike, Uniform, Sierra, Hotel, India. Mushi Watch Straps. So in this week's episode, we're going to discuss the VA's Pathfinder program. It's a pretty cool program. It's designed to either help you sell something to the VA or innovate with the VA and work together and partner. All the things are basically designed to help make veterans' quality of life better through the VA. It's a pretty interesting program, and if we have any entrepreneurial type people listening to the podcast, it'd be a great thing to check out, and I'll go into that. And then I'll also discuss how hitting the watch hobby really hard has led to a minor case of burnout. Nothing bad, but if I'm being honest with myself, I need to be honest with my audience too. So in veteran-related news, all right, we're going to talk about the Pathfinder program. It's, according to the VA, a virtual concierge designed to streamline procurement and innovation with the VA. For those of you that aren't familiar, any government entity you can sell stuff to. You can also innovate with them, work together to help, either improve something or make something new out of the blue. Basically, a solution to a problem, stuff like that. The Pathfinder program is an online website where users can submit their ideas, some solutions, products, or services to the VA for consideration. And there'll be 2 distinct branches you can do this in. And I'll explain those in a minute. But this website offers users a centralized point to engage with the VA and their industry partners. So when you go into the website, you're going to see everybody that they work with, and it basically farms the stuff out to them. The whole goal of this thing is to speed up and focus the entire process for you. I've had some former shipmates and friends that have worked with the VA back in the past, and they said that the whole system was so convoluted. And I've talked to them, and they said that it's this whole Pathfinder thing makes it very much more streamlined and easier to get the ball rolling, if you will, with either your innovation or your product that you want to sell. So there are 2 branches you can take on the website. And again, I'll include these links in the show notes, and it'll explain it pretty easily. The 2 branches you can take are either sell to the VA or innovate with the VA. And I'll break each one down. So if you want to sell to the VA, that's the first one. Uh, According to them, if you can say yes to any of the following, then you can be considered ready to submit your idea for sale to the VA. So if you can say yes to the fact that your product or service is ready for the veteran market and requires no further development. Now, with any kind of product you're going to make, you have to do some kind of testing. If there's safety things involved, do testing for that. Is it easy to be mass produced? Do you have all this stuff streamlined? Basically, is it ready for the market? So if the VA said, yes, we want to buy that you can actually fulfill orders right away. Is your product or service, does it have existing customers? Now, there are some people who make stuff and they already are selling it in an online store, or they're selling it at a market or whatever. But the product has customers, repeat customers. They, create revenue for the company. And at this point, all you got to do is just sell it to the VA, and there's already a customer base involved. And then, do you also want to learn more about VA acquisitions as far as purchasing of products or services and becoming a vendor? If you can answer yes to any of the following, then you can consider yourself ready to sell to the VA. Now, this is a foray for me into acquisition and innovation with the VA. I would love to have on a fellow veteran that's experienced in this later, maybe do an interview series if that's something that you as the audience would be interested in. Leave a comment down in the show notes. I'll put a poll up if that would be something you'd be interested in, and maybe we can get an expert on to talk about this and someone with some experience to give you better feedback. I guess I'm kind of entrepreneurial, but I'm not going to say like I'm super entrepreneurial. Maybe there's some more development. And the way I read it inside the website is, they understand that you're at a certain part of the steps that you need to be finished, and then maybe they could help you get along, finish those steps up to get more along in the process. Or I am interested in working together to pioneer new insights or initiatives. So, you have some ideas, but you want to work together with someone and bounce ideas off each other, and you have some new insights to maybe an old problem or some initiatives to an old problem that you want to help kick off. And then I'm looking for proven solutions I can adopt and commercialize. So maybe there's stuff out there that can be tweaked for use with the veteran, right? Or uh, you can commercialize it to get the reach to more veterans. That's the way I read it. And then I want to learn more about innovations at the VA and engaging with the innovation community. So if you can answer yes to any of those, maybe you're ready to innovate with the VA. I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, I'd like to get an expert on with this, or someone has some experience, because there is a whole series, and I'm not even joking, but there's certain shows where they they highlight people that invent stuff or people that patent stuff or entrepreneurial type people. And I know you just don't. I know sometimes like someone's just kicking around in the garage and they make something, but I know there is when you get serious about a whole series of steps, especially when you try to want to have partners come in and stuff like that. So I really would like to get an expert on. If you are one, feel free to hit me up. You can just DM me on my Instagram. But all this stuff with the Pathfinder program by the VA is designed to improve the customer service and experience. Yes, the whole design of the website and the platform is to make it easier for you as the, entrepreneur or the innovator, but it's really the whole purpose is to get these solutions quicker to the veteran, and it's going to improve their customer service or their experience. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I snooped around the website and checked some stuff out. It's really streamlined. It's really up to date. It's a very modern user experience. It's not clunky. It doesn't look like you're looking at, Windows 95. It's very nice. So I'll put that link in the show notes. Go check it out. And there's all different kinds of FAQ stuff on there as well. So you can get some more in-depth questions answered. But that was the VA's Pathfinder website. All right. And watch related news. Now, I thought real long and hard about this one. And, I don't like to come across as negative, but I had to admit to myself lately that I've gotten kind of burnt out with watches. And I think it's because I fell prey to some traps. And I just want to discuss it with you because if you're a newer watch collector, you're getting interested in that stuff. I'd like you to understand that sometimes, there can almost be too much of a good thing, and if you've ever had ice cream, that's true. There's too much at one time. And so let me just go through this and explain. And once again, I would love to hear any, in the comment section of the podcast. I would love to know if any of you have felt the same or if you're experiencing it now. But I really just want you to be aware of it. So if you're starting out in your watch collecting journey, you don't run across the same thing I have. So I don't know how the rest of you are, But when I get interested in something, I tend to deep dive the subject. Like I go after it. Serious timepieces that watch collectors would collect, they're not really disposable or consumable by design. A lot of them are designed to be serviced. They're made with pretty good materials that last a long time. They take the wear into consideration. There's all this stuff. So I bring that up because there was a previous hobby that I was in that I really loved. It allowed me to be creative. But, at the end of the day, that stuff just depreciated the second I did it. Like the second I painted something or the second I designed something, I was happy with my creation. But what was I gonna do with it after that? I could play a game, but there was just so many rules involved. And it's not like I hate to admit it, it's not like I could turn around and take the thing that I created and sold it, if I wasn't interested anymore. At least in the watch collecting hobby, if I have a halfway decent timepiece and I'm just not feeling it, I could either lose a little bit of money or maybe make some money back or just break even. In some cases, I've donated watches to fellow veterans that were in a hard spot, or I just look at the timepiece and what I know from their, either their volunteer work or what they post online, that it fits their lifestyle. And, if the timepiece isn't really doing it for me, maybe it can make them happy and make their life a little bit better and they get to wear something cool. My previous hobby, I mean, I guess you could have done that, but not really. Now, I don't want anyone to think that money is the primary motivating factor for me in this hobby, but I would be a liar if I said it didn't factor into the hobby somewhat, and by that I mean that watches cost actual money. And as you learn about this hobby, it quickly becomes apparent that the desire to own a timepiece can be kind of, squashed by the cost at times. And I'll explain more about that later. Cost is different to everybody, but I think that most people have a sense of responsibility, like, if you have a family involved, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to go too much of that. But the cost can directly affect your ability to own something that you desire to have, right? It doesn't really, I don't think the cost really does anything to experiencing the watch. If you get out there and you get to talk to people, you get to meet people. I've had people, oh, like, check this out. And then they hand me their watch and they let me put it on wrist. And, or you go to stores that are really interested in earning your business for the long time. Like that's how I tried on my Tudor Pelagos. It was awesome. Not mine. See, that was a Freudian slip. I got to try on a Tudor Pelagos and realized that it really is a watch that I would like to earn and own one day. And then, just people's kindness will let you try the stuff on. But for me, as the need to learn increases, so does the desire to to either own something or basically obtain something. I don't know how else to say it. So for me, desire increases as my desire to learn increases, right? So the more and more and more I learn, especially about something I'm interested in, it tends to be the more and more and more I want something. And, it's a vicious cycle. But anyways, so I explained all that just to get to the point to where I'm at now, that I'm a little burnt out on watches. Now, I'm not so burnt out on learning about watches. I mean, I think if you watch the live streams that I've done with Sam on the Casual Watch Talk YouTube channel, you'll see that I'm still interested. I'm still learning. There's still great stuff. Patrick with his pocket watches, Todd with his just wonderful knowledge of Seiko and chronos and some vintage stuff, and Sam's well-rounded knowledge. I'm learning about stuff all the time. But I think I'm burnt out on learning to purchase watches. And I think it's because I fell into some traps early, which again I'll touch on in a second. So this little phase of burnout has basically caused me to put a pause on purchasing watches and to slow down on social media, specifically Instagram. I used to post like, every other day or every day. Now I'm pretty much just doing Friday Night Loom Battle, whatever you want to call it. I'm saving my creative juices for that and pumping out a good video or two or series of pictures on Fridays. But as far as purchases have gone, I've completely slowed down and I've, scaled back on social media. And what that's done is it's really caused me to evaluate my collection and start to save for some pieces that match my desire to learn. And I'll explain it like this, that I need some pieces that I can learn from while I wear them and pieces that will teach me as I wear them. And I don't know how else to say this, but I think with some of the more well-made, technically improved or complicated pieces, I'm going to get that. So I'll explain myself. I've fallen into some traps that have made me comfortable, and I feel like I don't learn as much And I welcome any feedback on this, but here, let's go into the traps. There's 3 of them. So I fell into the micro brand trap. And what do I mean by the micro brand trap? There's plenty of great micro brands out there, but I learned some stuff, and I learned some stuff really quick. Is that there's a lot of people reviewing micro brands, and almost all the time, those micro brands are great. But out of those micro brands, how many of them actually stick around? How many of them have a resale value, right? I know it's not all about that, but it would be nice to move them on if I don't really dig them. I have 2 right now. I'm not going to name the brand. They're great little watches, but no one wants them. They have a mecha quartz movement. I don't think there's very many people, in my experience, has been people that dig the mecha quartz movement. Uh, and it's been impossible to move them. And when I do move them, I'm probably going to lose a ton of money on them. Uh, there's other things, the micro brand trap, like it not always, but to me, it seems that it comes down to the design aesthetic. Do you like the design? But my experience over the past 2 years and some changes, they almost all have the same movement inside, right? It's an NH35. Sometimes someone, goes with a basic ETA or a Solita or something, but usually it's NH35. And when I get the micro brand and it's cool and I like it, but then I feel, well, I basically bought the NH35 movement, and inside this watch is the same. So that's where I'm at with the micro brand trap. So I think that the reason why it's a trap is because they're usually pretty affordable. You can usually get in early. Sometimes there's a Kickstarter, stuff like that. But then at the end of the day, I'm left with the brand that I don't really feel any connection to. And there isn't much history. I know that they have to build their history. Maybe they are. But I've seen on one hand in the last 2 years and some change, any micro brands that are really trying to build a culture. Now that could be on me. Maybe I missed the ones that are doing it, but my experience so far has been the micro brand trap. They're affordable. You can get in early. But at the end of the day, you are getting something that some usually takes design cues from somewhere else and uses a standard NH35 movement. If anyone thinks that I'm wrong, I welcome some feedback and some comments in the notes, please. But that's the first trap. So the second trap is probably going to get some hate and discontent, but it's a Seiko diver trap. And I fell into this one hard. At one time, I had like 5 samurais. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, do I really need these 5 samurais? I mean, they're beautiful, but I had the Great White. I have the Blue Lagoon. I have the Manta Ray. I had the Blue Whale. I had a SRPB 53 mod with a steel bezel. And I sat there and looked at them like, how many samurais can I have? And especially when I had, according to myself, what I could see is literally the most beautiful one. The Blue Lagoon is just so subtly beautiful. The sunburst dial, I mean, oh man, it's great. And I realized, man, I spent this money on these samurais, and I could have had something else as I started to learn more. And this will all make sense in a minute. But since then, I've sold off, or I've given actually 2 samurais out to 2 veterans. I just felt, one guy's aesthetic, and the other veteran, just I felt like needed something good in their life, and I hooked them up. And now I'm down to my Blue Lagoon, and I'm recently going to sell my Manta Ray, and I don't need anything else other than the Blue Lagoon. I have the best samurai. I guess maybe if they made a King Samurai, that Blue Lagoon with sapphire and all that stuff, yeah. But I think it's easy to fall in the Seiko diver trap for a lot of the same reasons it's easy to fall into the micro brand trap. They're affordable. They're going to, they're going to have their version, their OEM version of the 35 movement, usually the 36 of their date. But you can get them, you can stack them up, but at the end of the day, you have 10 watches as an early collector, and if you do the math, those 10 watches could have been a really, really, really nice entry level luxury piece. So, and that's just my take on it. I wish I had known more. And then the last trap is what I call the every style trap. And this one to me is probably the biggest fallacy of them all, right? The biggest pitfall. I had a field watch, got rid of it. I have multiple pilot watches, got rid of a couple of them. I have one, the Flightmaster, the SNA 411, which is a shout out, the official timepiece of the SoCal Watch Reviews podcast, my boy Miguel and P. Ross. Hope you guys are doing good. I kept that one. Great watch. And then I have a dress watch, which I don't even really want. I hardly ever wear it. And then I basically have come down to having tool slash dive watches because that's what I like. I don't like every style. I I went and tried to get every style and realized it's not my thing. Now that might evolve over time, but it hasn't evolved yet. So I would just say be careful to every style trap. There is something to be said about learning that as you go, but I would recommend that you create contacts in the community and relationships, and you try on other people's pieces to see if you like a Flieger. Do you like a chronograph? Do you like a dive chrono? I realize I don't like dive chronos. Um, do you like certain aesthetics from certain companies, et cetera, et cetera. So try them out for free from a friend to see if you like that style instead of just going out and buying every style. And those are the three traps that I fell into that I think has kind of helped cause this burnout. Now, for some more context, like I said, these have cost me some money and some time and delayed me in obtaining pieces that I know enough about now to really want. I've handled some of these nicer pieces, and I just like, man, if I just hadn't bought this or hadn't bought that, I'd be there. But that's really what they do is they cost you, right? So I basically pulled the trigger early on in my journey because my ambition outweighed my knowledge. And I would just recommend that if you're a newer collector, the knowledge is going to drive you to want. I would say that you regulate that want until you can touch a timepiece, until you can experience one, until you learn more, until you're like, oh man, I could have three of these, or I could have one of these. And this one does what all three of those does and is either, built, has better principles behind it. It's built better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to drone on and beat a dead horse, but I think you get it. That early on, my ambition outweighed my knowledge, and it's cost me a little bit. And these are just my thoughts in getting ahead, how getting ahead of oneself can cause some burnout for you, and how it has a little bit for me. Not in a bad way, just honest about it. If you have any comments, put them in the comment section below. I welcome them, and I look forward to them. Well, closing thoughts. I really appreciate you tuning into episode 12. It's been great. We're at a dozen. It's almost as good as a dozen donuts, I guess. I don't know. Don't forget to tune into our live streams with me and Sam over at the Casual Watch Talk YouTube channel, Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's some other stuff we might be doing on the weekend, but I'll let Sam release that. And then a positive affirmation for today. I just want you to know that you are enough. Like right here, right now, you are enough. That doesn't mean you can't get better, but don't beat yourself up because you aren't somewhere that you haven't even had the opportunity to get to yet. So many of us, I see it all the time. We beat ourselves up, and it's like, well, have we had the opportunity to get there yet? No. So if you haven't, assess your situation and go to where you want to be and do the work if there's work required to get there. You deserve to work hard for yourself. I'm gonna keep rattling this one home. And remember, at watchrolling.com, you make the watch. The watch doesn't make you.